Welcome back to the North Platte Kickback. My name is Blaine Guile. I'm along with Chris. We got a guest today that's been a good friend of mine for a long time. At least that's what I call him in private. His name is Kevin Phillips. He's an artist out of Fort Collins currently by way of Cheyenne. Kev, appreciate you coming back.
No problem.
What up, Kev?
What up?
So I guess we should probably just head off and talk about these beautiful pictures we got all over our walls and where they came from. So, Kev, you started around high school?
Yeah, for the most part, late high school. Been drawing forever. Didn't get serious till senior year, I'd say. And just been getting good ever since.
Clearly.
That's most of my recent work, though. Giraffe a little bit older, but definitely improving as we go.
I'll say so.
For sure. So you're originally from Alliance, is that correct?
Right. Alliance, then Cheyenne, then Fort Collins.
Would you consider yourself more of a Nebraska boy or a Wyoming boy? Or is there even a difference?
Home is Wyoming.
But you do get your heart broken by the Huskers every year?
Every year, yeah. At least 6 times. Gotta love those 50% seasons. Scott Frost, though. All hail.
You guys all love that guy, huh?
It's the only thing keeping me going.
Scott Frost passed on Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
That's a miss if I've
Let's
ever
talk
seen
about
one.
art.
Yeah, so thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. So when you're in high school, at least speaking for myself, I'm in art class, number one, because they either say I have to be, or number two, I need an excuse to do nothing for about 45 minutes. So what allowed you to choose art in school and stuff? And did you take it seriously in the fact that, you know, they're assigning these projects whether you like them or not? Did you take those seriously, or did you kind of push back a little bit?
I wouldn't say push back, but I definitely didn't like them. There's nothing fun about drawing cones, triangles.
Stacking a bunch
like
of
that.
fruit up and then having to draw shadows.
Yeah, It's not fun. So, I mean, I bared through that just because I'd rather be doing that than something else elective. But come state art, took in all my artwork that I did at home, and then killed state art, got me some dozen ribbons, and then that's when I really realized I could keep doing it.
And is state art, isn't that normally in Casper?
Yeah, no, at least it was that year.
It wasn't. I just remember in high school them talking about it, you know, about how I wouldn't be going.
Yeah, no, I never got nominated either.
Your art teacher in high school, I mean, did he put any impact on you, or is this just kind of the guy that conveniently teaches the class?
My welding teacher, sticking around in welding class, built a dung beetle, and then built something else, just some like boxes and stuff that were kind of cool and geometric. And he thought I was messing around the whole time because I've waited till the end to put it all together, and then all of a sudden I've got a bug.
Mm-hmm.
And then he thought it was really cool. Ended up submitting it to state art. That was junior year. That's what kind of got the ball rolling. And then senior year is when I introduced all my artwork that I did at home. And then went to college shortly after that.
And you ended up going to LCCC in Cheyenne.
Right.
Was that just because it's close to home?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know I was going to be an artist. I just wanted to continue doing art.
Right.
So I really didn't even, I went to school just to say, yeah, I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't want to try and fake anything. And I didn't want to get into $30,000, $40,000 worth of debt. So I just went and did my thing.
And you went on an art degree, right?
Went for an art degree on a scholarship.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was a $1,500 scholarship that I got from state art.
And as long as you've got both legs and both arms, you qualify for the Hathaway. So
yeah, I was living in Cheyenne long enough, so.
So while you're going to school at LCCC, you were working as well as going to school. I know you're living off campus and stuff. So you were working full time. I know you started originally at Walmart stealing waters and stuff. After you left Walmart, how did that kind of come about? You went into the banking world?
Yeah, so I just wanted to get out of Walmart. Was tired of living that life. Went into the finances. Just stuck with that for a while. Pretty good gig, you know, paid well. Was able to save up enough money to take time off for a couple months, 3 months, just start knocking out artwork as much as I could, practicing. And then eventually the funds dried up, went back to work. And then just now, the last 3 months now, I've been going full-time art. Over about an 8-year period it took to get to that.
Yeah, you were able to kind of, put yourself in the position that you're in now to pursue art full-time.
Right.
Our last podcast was with Spencer of Mile High Fries, and I know, at least to me, it made a little bit of an impact. A local guy that we've known forever that took kind of a unique path, and you kind of fit in that same unique mold. But I was reading a little bit about this U-Haul show that you did at LCCC, and there's a little bit of a connection in the fact that you had some inspiration from food trucks.
Right. So I was doing loans at my last job, and I got a lot of people that were coming in. They wanted loans. A lot of people trying to start up businesses. I know at least in Cheyenne, there was more and more food trucks coming about, Mile High Fries being one of them. And it took until I was approached to do a solo show that I was able to kind of take that idea of get rid of a brick and mortar, get rid of like the standard setting of an art gallery. Decided, like these food trucks have this idea of like you don't have a restaurant business, you just go where the demand is. Wyoming's not exactly my kind of art scene, so I didn't want to
horses and cowboys.
Right? Yeah, none of that garbage. Really making people mad there. But I just wanted to do my own thing. I was approached, and they're like, "Well, the deal is our gallery is under construction," so I had to come up with something else. They wanted me to be at the top of this building in a vacant classroom, and I know people aren't going to just walk in to that kind of thing.
Walk into a vacant classroom accidentally and find an art show going on.
Exactly. So, they were paying me. They wanted to pay for supplies. So I was like, okay, well.
Supplies for the artwork or like supplies to set it up?
Everything. I had like a supply budget for what I wanted to do.
Nice.
I went to them. I said, okay, I'm thinking about doing a U-Haul. It'll be big enough to get people in. It'll have some way for them to get into it. And then just park it around the campus, different places. And so I decked out the inside. I put up some like studio backdrop stuff, bricks, stuff like that. Threw some vinyl flooring down so it looked like a gallery floor.
Didn't look like a metal box.
And then, yeah, exactly. Put some spotlights up on each painting and rocked out the U-Haul show titled Vaporwave.
So where were you like taking this, the U-Haul? Just like anywhere you wanted?
Well, that was the idea behind it of, it can go anywhere.
So if you've never been to the LCCC campus in Cheyenne, it's like basically there's a road that circles around the entire outer ring of the campus, and then there's stationary, obviously parking areas throughout the whole thing, but there's one loop around the entire campus for the most part. And so that does make sense now that I think about it that way, is that you can kind of just post up in different areas depending on the day. Was it like spring or summertime, I hope?
It was spring. It was pretty warm weather. Didn't get too hot in the U-Haul, which was a big worry of mine.
Nice.
The biggest factor, though, was wind. Wind was kind of fluffing all the paintings out and stuff, which was annoying, but you live and learn. There's other places around the country that aren't like Cheyenne.
Yeah.
So how did that go? Did you like answer any questions or like give any presentation or anything? You just kind of let people go in and out? Or
Yeah, so between working full-time, I would just like go to lunch, go to the college, meet a class at the U-Haul, and then they would ask their questions. I'd go through my idea or spiel behind why I did a U-Haul, why all this retro artwork is here, what the story is behind it. Because I had some pretty obvious statements, from a jar of mustard to Adderall pills. So kind of there's some questions there, especially at a college. And then kind of just talk to the students about like, hey, this is where I went to school. This is what I'm doing now. I mean, you can continue this, because there are some really good instructors there.
Yeah, did you want to go into that at all? I know you talk kind of highly of the guy that made an impact on you. But.
I mean, he's former professor at, I believe it's the Art Institute of Chicago. The ceramics professor's gotten in a lot of like world-renowned artists. Alyssa Monks, she's like my favorite artist since I was like 10. And she came and did like all the students, she was painting with them. She painted on one of my canvases.
Nice.
Oh, really?
So that's really cool. That's my favorite painting to date.
I would assume, yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot of cool artists that come and go out of there. One of my good friends, James, he's also an artist, very serious about what he does. Really good. So kind of came up, we're going through all the motions together of like, hey, how do we make a business out of this? You know, how do we get better? What do we got to do? So it's kind of been good to have somebody there with me that's comparable talent-wise,
Right.
And dedication-wise as well.
Have you ever set up at like a festival somewhere? I know in Fort Collins every summer they do the New West Fest, and we would just walk around downtown, and there were all sorts of like little boutiques set up, and tons of them were of different artists and stuff like that. Do you have any plans to do that in the future?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I've been approached about those a few times. There's been a few places in Cheyenne that wanted me to do similar things. But the problem was I just didn't really have anything that would sell. Like at that time or those times, I was really only painting people that I knew. Just trying to build up some skill, refine like how to use the mediums. But now at this stage, I'm gearing more towards sellable. So what can I get out there? And that comes with like prints as well, which that's where a good profit margin comes from. Just because I can post up, have 20 prints there and just say, yeah, here you go, here you go, here you go. Do the transaction on my phone, all that. So definitely looking into some stuff like that here in the future.
So you're done with the U-Haul show at LCCC or what have you. Something I thought that was really cool and a little bit different, especially for people our age. You did helped out, I guess, with a fundraising event for the Lincoln Theater and the Paramount in Cheyenne and stuff. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool just because, number one, you're helping improve something in the community for something that you believe in. You know, like obviously they're changing it into more of a music venue kind of thing and that sort of thing, but also being able to showcase what you've been working on and keep it local and have a local face behind it and stuff. So did you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, so 6 months ago now, I think, maybe a little bit longer, they did a fundraiser geared around selling artwork. So they basically hung up a bunch of artwork throughout the whole theater, basically at that time. People walked in. There was a silent auction on all the art. So I submitted 2 pieces there, raised $400. So that was a pretty good feeling because good way to get my name out there a little bit in Cheyenne. Made money myself.
Right.
Then I was also able to help them because I've done some shows at the Paramount downtown a few times. And they've always been really cool. They don't ask for, like, if I get any sales, they don't ask for any of the money from that. Right. It's just strictly an opportunity. So they're doing something really cool for me. Figured I'd do that for them. And then just recently they did a call for artists for murals. I think it's 8 4-foot by 8-foot murals. And they're all going to be hung up once the music venue is open and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm doing a Wizard of Oz piece right now.
Wow.
Yeah, check out his Instagram. He's showing kind of the progress through that, and that's a really cool idea.
Plan on finishing that here soon, so you'll definitely be seeing some updates.
Shout out your Instagram, man.
So it's going to be at I make artwork with underscore. So I underscore artwork. Oh my gosh, I messed it up.
Artwork?
I underscore make underscore artwork.
And we're going to go
AR
right
twerk
here.
Yeah.
Wow.
He makes it twerk, ladies and gentlemen.
So yeah, a cool thing about your Instagram, as I just kind of touched on a little bit, is that if you follow your stories and stuff, you can kind of see the whole process of the whole thing and kind of see how it evolves. Do you want to talk a little bit about where the inspiration comes from and how you kind of just start with a blank canvas and all of a sudden we've got, what you see up here?
So recently I've been taking a little bit different approach to how I tackle a painting. Like with my rose piece, it's pretty obvious. Like there's a lot of very cut and dry edges to it. So there's a lot of thinking about it before I did anything. Whereas like these newer pieces, I went in with no idea what I was going to do.
Even the Mac one, huh?
Even the Mac, yeah. Like that, I had the canvas with like the blue water and the squares on it long before I knew I was going to do Mac. It just kind of popped into my head one day, listening to Mac Miller or something.
So you had the geometric patterns, the squares and the triangles on before you started to shape it around Mac Miller?
Not the triangles, because the triangles come from one of his albums.
Gotcha.
But the squares definitely did. But I've been thinking about doing like weird layers, like with the hand and the jacket and stuff recently with like other artwork, and that was probably the first time I kind of took everything that I was learning as I was going along, and then applying it.
I did want to mention that there's two separate Mac Millers that I've seen from you, and one. Do you remember when you first drew it? It's a drawing, right?
Yeah. So it was about a week after he died. I did a quick portrait of him. Pretty famous picture of him just smoking a cigarette with some cool smoke.
That was one of the first things I've ever seen from you, and it was super interesting to me because it actually, I mean, it's dynamic, and it's one of the, at the time, it just shocked me because it was so good. And I knew you were an artist, but I hadn't really seen a bunch of your stuff. And so the crazy development between that and how good that one is and how realistic it looks compared to this one is night and day. And like I said, the first one is incredible to me. So just to kind of be able to track your performance and your talent and stuff through that amount of time is uncanny. And we'll obviously show you that as well. But I think that's a good indication of kind of how far you've come. Definitely
been trying to improve and improve from like a style point and a marketable point. Because not the stuff that I like doesn't necessarily translate everywhere. So I figured, I mean, Mac Miller is really popular. I like him. Worst case scenario, if I can't sell the painting, I got a dope painting and I like it. So, but yeah, there's definitely a progression. You can see on my Instagram now, I only have like 30 posts. I try to keep it short and sweet. It's just like, this is the best I got right now. But if I go into like my archive and start scrolling, you can see when I was really bad. So there's definitely, it's a muscle that you got to keep working at and like improving.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with these animal paintings, do they exist within like the same realm, the same universe?
Yeah. My brother, he owns the giraffe piece.
The original?
Yeah. And he's got a couple other pieces as well. There's like a lady with a dress on, and part of the design of the dress is that painting. So I kind of made it go into there. And then just even one older than that. That's probably 10 years old now, close to.
So you were, what, 17, 18 when you did that?
Yeah, I was probably 18. And I did a painting similar to that of like two guys standing by a tree, even prior to that. And he has that one as well. So in the background of the giraffe piece, you see a tree with like two people standing by it, very faint. But they're there. And then along with that hill as well. May not mean much, but that's the same hill as a Salvador Dali painting with some like structure, like some sort of house building. Wow. That's Dali. And then in the elephant, I repeated that tree with the two people with that hill. So just to kind of make it a little bit cooler. And then also
a little Easter egg for everybody.
Yeah, and then make it so it ties into my work. Kind of make a little thing going on there.
The top portion of this elephant painting reminds me of the only artist I know the name of, Alex Gray. He does a lot of psychedelic paintings and stuff like that. So that's kind of what that reminded me of, even though I don't know if that's even remotely close to true. Are you familiar with Alex Gray?
Yeah, Alex Gray's awesome. Him and his wife do really cool work. I just listened to a podcast recently where they were talking about Alex Gray and his wife and how good they were able to take psychedelic trips, come back from it, and then be able to show it.
Right.
Because I guess that's not the case all the time.
Being able to like express it once you're in your sober brain, I guess, back again.
I can imagine that's overwhelming.
It's articulating it.
Yeah,
yeah. It's like other people that have done that immediately know where they were and how they got to that idea of a painting, which is cool. So I definitely take some inspiration, I would say, from Alex Gray.
Have you ever
Banksy.
considered about doing the same thing?
Yeah, I got no problem with psychedelics. There's the last 7 or 8 paintings I'd say that I've put out would probably be influenced by psychedelics.
And was it intended to be
Psilocybin.
that way, or it just kind of worked out that way?
Yeah, I mean, I've only done it a handful of times, but I definitely went in to that experience looking for some sort of art awakening kind of thing, inspiration of some sort, and it definitely worked. I think psilocybin's going to be good for a whole lot more than art, PTSD, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I definitely believe that I've taken what I experienced and translated it to canvas pretty well at this point.
In that level of, I guess, inspiration, creativity, since you said you've done it a handful of times, but you've put out, 7 or 8 paintings, it has kind of stayed with you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, kind of think of it as like trying to remember a dream that you had 6 months ago. Like it doesn't really, but you remember the dream, the premise, and I remember a few very like things that I really took back from it. This weird sense of layers, and then that's what I kind of started bringing into some artwork. And then I had I don't want to call it like an epiphany, but like something to do with data and how like electronics play into our lives now. So I did a big, like a 3-part series of like 3 different paintings coming together with like elements tying together of like data and like data streams and how,
which is a very hard thing to like visualize. It's hard to bring that to life because it's something that you never see at all.
Right.
Good point.
And I wanted to like kind of push a little bit of like a natural element into it as well. So started doing like honey. So if you check out my Instagram, you'll see those there. But a lot of that stuff from the glitchy look that I've been pushing recently came from one psilocybin trip.
Interesting. So is it more, I guess, what you're taking from these trips, is it more a color scheme or some sort of visual thing like that? Is it a premise? Is it like you were talking about data as a whole? What in particular, I guess, do you take away from it, number one? And then number two, have you considered doing some writing and stuff after the fact to try and retain some of that stuff?
So
because you said it's like remembering a dream.
I don't want to say color, because I've always been pretty good at color play, but it's the moving element of it. It pushed me to be more motivated and like kind of hone in on what I was trying to do. A little discombobulated at that time, kind of just going through the motions, 40 hours a week, had a job. And then it was after that, I was like, doorstep of 30, might as well give this a shot. I got money saved up, got a good bit of artwork made right now, made the move to Fort Collins. Then we got coronavirus.
Right. Okay, so you moved kind of like right before the coronavirus came down?
March 1st, I moved.
So how much of an effect has that had on you? Because, I mean, you're an artist. You probably stay in your house a lot. And
I was planning on quarantining anyways.
Yeah.
Been quarantining for a long time.
There you go.
Before it was cool.
Yeah.
But it was, I don't want to say good timing because it's a bad thing, but luckily I was prepared for it and get to keep going now.
Are we going to see any more paintings in the future, but have people wearing masks on them?
Thought about it, but now you start going through Instagram and it's already a thing.
Isn't it terrible? That's like a trendy thing.
Yeah,
like,
it's not gonna. I already had someone try to make a joke about his hand being like blue, like a mask, and I'm like, yeah, it's. But the art scene's gonna change probably.
What do you mean?
Galleries getting stuffed in,
The
bunch
way
of
you consume
people
it,
and
like that?
stuff. Like how are people gonna do that?
I think that's a good point. I was thinking about that with music because all you're seeing is artists doing live performances from their living rooms,
comedians
performed
and
off
stuff.
their phone. I mean, the comedian thing is tough because you don't have the room to play off of.
Yeah,
Right.
you don't just get to. You have no response.
It's
You
not
don't know
the
when
same.
each
That's-
punchline's going to hit. You don't. You're speaking into nothing.
Mhm.
Like,
I was
I'm
kinda
sure
thinking
that's
about that.
nerve-wracking.
With
Gotta adapt.
like John Oliver's show or those late night shows, if you watch that, it's just like it's
Bill
Not the
Maher's
same.
making a mockery out of it, and it's kind of funny. But no, yeah, that's a good point.
It's not as like consumable, I don't think, from that standpoint. But yeah, just not having large crowds. Like these artists can play live shows right off their phone, project it out to the entire world.
Look what Tory Lanez is doing.
You might have to bring back some U-Haul shows.
And I got practice now too, which is cool. I know what to do, how to do it.
Mhm.
Like going through U-Haul process is kind of lame, but it's probably going to be the way we got to do things. Either
6
that or
feet
more
apart.
guerrilla advertising style. Like that's where like Banksy and Obey, Shepard Fairey, it's really where they took off their art careers. I was influenced a lot by both of them. So
I do want to kind of transition out of there, but I do want to get a chance to ask, with you being mostly by request or almost always by request now for the most part, is there any guidelines people should think about before requesting, and how do they do so?
I'll paint pretty much anything. It's got to make sense. I mean, I get people that asks for free paintings and free drawings all the time. Hey, can you draw my girlfriend? I'm like, how much you gonna pay me? And they're like, oh, I gotta pay you. It's like, well, no, I got bills to pay. So, but it's just stuff like that. But if you're serious about it, I can make it work to your budget. I get a lot of people think I'm trying to haggle with them. I just say, okay, what's your budget? And I'll tell you what I will do for that amount, you know? And it's like, I think once we get past that idea of this guy's trying to see how much I'm going to pay him to, okay, maybe I don't want that. I can go smaller than what I wanted or bigger.
It's a business transaction, though. I mean,
Right.
people have to be understanding of that.
I've had a lot of people say, cool, deal, let's do it. Never pay.
You ask for like a deposit up front?
I'm doing that now. Yeah, I did an anime girl Sailor Moon thing. Knocked it out real quick. Never had the time to pick it up. Snapchats, read, nothing. So I just sold it to someone else, didn't care. Now I'm starting to get deposits though, so that kind of stops that kind of thing.
So I was kind of thinking about this earlier when you were talking about kind of the finance side of the business of being an artist and selling paintings. Where was I going with that?
Oh, what? I guess with that. Go ahead.
Oh, here's where I was going. The transactions, are you using Venmo or like how are you doing it?
I got it all.
Got it all?
Cash App,
Okay.
PayPal. I'll do Bitcoin. I don't care.
Gotcha.
Cash, whatever. Getting the website put up with a payment portal. That was a big step. I've always been approached by people, hey, do you got a website? No, just an Instagram. Go here. Well, how could I pay you? And I'm like, well, just PayPal me. And for some reason, they don't like to do that, you know, but it's like I could just as easily scam you now with a website than this
Or
way.
with
But,
cash.
Right.
But people are a lot more receptive to that. They're comfortable with it. So I'm starting to see a lot more sales come through.
Yeah, and once people kind of see how convenient that can be.
Convenient for me too, because money goes straight to my bank account. Call it good. I got a special account for it.
Do you give them a time frame up front, what they can expect? Does anyone ever get on your ass and try and speed you up?
It depends if they give me money. If we're just talking about it, I'm not gonna care too much. But once money's in my account, I'll get the ball rolling. I just got paid for a commission portrait. I knocked it out in like 2 days.
Yeah, and
pretty
you were
simple.
saying you sold the original to the elephant.
Yes. Got a post on Reddit, blew up. I don't know who he is. Random guy messaged me, bought it.
Is it the first time you got anything from Reddit like that, or?
I sold a lot of prints from Reddit, never a physical painting.
Really?
So that would be a first.
That's an interesting platform because you wouldn't think, I mean, offhand that would be a way to sell an original like that. That's crazy.
It wasn't even like an art subreddit either.
Really?
Yeah, it's just it's Whoa Dude is what it's called.
Whoa.
Got like 12,000 upvotes, and
Wow.
yeah, that's probably close to 250,000 views last I checked.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know how you just waited to mention that until now.
Well, that's the internet. I mean, I had next to the Mac Miller drawing on my Instagram is a guy who was smoking a cigarette, and that one got like 1 million views, like probably a decade ago now.
And that's on your Instagram too, I think.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So what I was thinking when you were talking about the payment stuff is why don't you just ask people for Bitcoin? You press your friends all the time for Bitcoin. I mean, would you prefer being paid in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency?
At this point in time, I would take Bitcoin. Yeah. Might as well. It's most likely going to go up. So
most likely, I don't think that's a reflection of how you feel.
Yeah. Tell that to somebody that had it 10 years ago. I mean, there's only a 3-month period where buying Bitcoin was a bad idea.
And that was when it was at 19.
It's positive on the year so far, and look what's happened in the world. Like gold and Bitcoin. That's about it.
Yeah, the problem with the gold is that we claim to have it. For a very long time, we've claimed to have all this gold in Fort Knox. There's been some shady transactions, if you follow the paper trail, some shady transactions of us paying. Basically what happened, if you're not familiar, is the American people were demanded to give up all of their gold in exchange for the dollar.
USA.
And so we put all the gold inside Fort Knox and apparently have a tally count of how much. But since then, the U.S. government's used it in multiple transactions with different countries, and we used to hold X amount. I don't know off the top of my head how much the percentage in the world was, but it's been a very long time in there. So I can't imagine that we still have.
There's been bars of gold found that have been like hollowed out and filled with like a different metal.
Because that's what they do. Is they take it down and weigh it, and that's how much it's worth.
And it's like, all right, well, can't do that with Bitcoin. Though I'd probably take gold if somebody really offered that, but good luck.
Just a gold bar?
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? Just break a chunk off?
Yeah, exactly. You can fractionalize Bitcoin, no problem. So you can get whatever price you want, fairly cheap for delivery, whatever.
Layman's terms.
Sending from me to you is very cheap and efficient. So 1 Bitcoin can be broken up into 99 million, I believe. So take that for what it's worth, but a lot more reasonable than trying to break off a piece of gold.
And for people that don't know, do you want to talk a little bit about how it's like an encryption, peer-to-peer transaction? There's no third party, just so people get an understanding of it.
My biggest question is, why does the government have to control the money? Why? I mean, I don't understand, like, what makes them so great. Obviously, they're not great with the money anyways.
Yeah, we have a bunch of debt, but we claim to have all the gold.
Right, and we can just all of a sudden print trillions of dollars, so why not print trillions?
But Kevin, that's because it's an emergency. Didn't you hear Nancy Pelosi?
I heard something about that thing or two. But Bitcoin's capped at 21 million Bitcoin.
What does that mean?
There will never be more than that. And there's people that have lost hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin already. So that means there's even less. I think it's 17 or 18 million exist right now. Every 10 minutes, the blockchain issues more Bitcoin. And we're coming up on the halving event. So it'll be 6.75 every 10 minutes issued. So that'll be officially less than the dollar's inflation percentage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the dollar will be inflating at a higher rate than Bitcoin, which is an interesting tidbit because of you got trillions of dollars getting printed right now. What's your dollar worth?
Right.
That's why another reason why you see gold going up near all-time highs right now. So
let's hope that we have it.
Bitcoin and Ethereum, I'd say, are probably your best bet for the next 6 months right now.
I don't have any money to invest anyway.
That's what they all say.
That's what they all say. But like you were saying, is you don't have to buy a full coin. You don't have to buy a full amount. You just buy, $10 at a time, 15, 20, 100, whatever. You can buy portions of these things, at least through most platforms. Some of them, I guess, would make you
or peer to peer
full thing.
If you have some, you can send it to him, vice versa. Never have to go through an intermediary like bank, whatever.
Don't have to go through a bank.
And I think it's an interesting time, especially in all this AI and all this tracking that's being proposed, with the coronavirus, we're going to be able to, or hypothetically, the government's thinking that they want to be able to see and track someone who's been infected, who they've been around, and then check those people and let them know they've been infected or been around someone who has. It's an interesting dynamic and I guess line to paint would be the fact that Bitcoin is peer-to-peer. There's no third party, so there's no way for them to see where your money is going and that sort of thing.
There are blockchain analysis tools that are able to track that.
But the government isn't in control.
They can't take it from you. Mm. They can arrest you, perhaps, depending on what they know or whatever, but they cannot physically take your money like they would go to a bank and say, freeze that bank account. They can't freeze your Bitcoin wallet. They can't freeze your Ethereum wallet. It's decentralized. There's no leader to it. So at that rate, you control your money. You are the bank at that point. Cuts out the middleman. You can kind of tie that to like the U-Haul, cutting out the brick and mortar. I mean, we're just cutting the fat. Like we're getting better at how to do this. Yeah. It's a better money. It's a better system. Like Ethereum is basically probably going to eliminate a large reason why banks are around soon.
What is that?
Accounting reasons, like you can build off of it. Bitcoin to a degree as well, but blockchain is really the key there when it comes to banks and credit unions and stuff, because you don't need accountants when the blockchain is unverifiably correct every time. Like there's no getting around it. You can't fake a blockchain. You can't fake Bitcoin. So there's no copy and paste Bitcoin. There's none of that stuff you got to worry about.
What do you say to the people that had Bitcoin when it was 15,000, 16, 17,000 a coin, and now is, I haven't checked it today, obviously.
About 9. I would say
have your money be so volatile all the time.
Volatile is a tough word because it's in relation to the dollar. And the dollar is quote unquote stable.
Allegedly.
Because you have a $1 bill and it's always a $1 bill. Well, one Bitcoin is always going to be one Bitcoin. So, I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, maybe that was the 3-month period where you shouldn't have done it, but it's a lot cheaper now. And the projections show I've seen upwards 200,000 in the next year or so. I would probably put it more around 100.
The all-time high is 19 and some change. I mean, how could you possibly predict that amount of increase?
Because it's done that in the past multiple times.
Being like the 3K or 3K to 20 or 3K to 19.
It went from like 100 to 1,000. Then it went from 200 to 2,000. And then it went from like 1,000 to 20,000. It went from 10,000 to 20,000 in a month. So, yeah, it's volatile, but it's volatile on the way up.
The interesting thing to me is that once it gained all this traction and momentum in the press and in the media and stuff, all of a sudden, when everyone gets involved, all the higher ups get involved, then you see this big crash, and now it's stabilized.
The CME futures came out. The month that it went from 10,000 to 20,000, the CME futures in the stock market, they just started doing their Bitcoin stuff, and then that's when things got really weird.
Thanks a lot, Wall Street.
Yeah, there's something like $2 trillion in derivative products on Wall Street of Bitcoin right now. That's larger than the entire cryptocurrency market cap, time and time over. So that kind of shows you the amount of money that's on the outside that is soon to be on the inside. And that's where you start getting those $200,000 price ranges. Because if you got I'm not 100% sure what it is, we'll say $250 billion right now, the overall cryptocurrency market cap, you throw a couple $1 trillion into that, what does that do to those prices?
Yeah. No, that's an explosion.
Right. So that's where you get your 20x numbers from. But that's Wall Street for you.
So what do you got going on now as far as your artwork and your plans going forward?
Well, it's kind of tough right now because I do have had 2 gallery shows lined up, but due to this whole mess, that all kind of got postponed.
Indefinitely.
Right. So kind of sucks because there's also like paint supplies getting hoarded, so it's tough to get what I need. Luckily, I mean, I have a strong amount of paint and stuff, but it just kind of sucks that it's the reality. But right now, I'm focusing on building the brand, building the business, trying to get more work out there so I can do more prints, start doing some shows, take the consumers on myself that way, and grow the website, grow the following, go from there.
Gotcha. Well, I'm stumped. I guess the cool thing about it is you've got a little bit of something for everybody that we were kind of talking about before this, just the fact that you can spend, $20-$30 and get some pretty interesting prints, a pretty wide range of different stuff, but you can also obviously petition yourself to do some commission work and stuff. And I want to go back to what I asked you earlier. How do people get in touch with you to do the whole commission thing? I mean, how does that process go about? Do you guys do some brainstorming, like a little bit? I guess a good way to relate it would be like a tattoo artist, where you sit down with a concept and then you kind of feel it out.
So, kind of piggybacking off of that, my favorite tattoos are the ones that I had some say in. We had some like good vibes going back and forth, ideas. So that's what I like. So I try to transition stuff like that into the people I'm working with. So I'd say most of the time people already have an idea of what they want. It's the rare few that say, I want you to do what you want to do. Like, here's what I'll pay you for it. Do what you got to, like, what you want. And that's when you start getting stuff like this, like, if you want a painting of a person, you get a painting of a person. But if you want art, if you want a creation, this is kind of what I'm trying to start going towards. I want to build on that, not just celebrities or animals, but anything. Stuff that's interesting to me.
Like flamingos and hot air balloons.
Yeah, we'd say that. There's a reason why stuff like that gets painted over.
Yeah, the moral of the story is if you ask for something and it's ready to be received, you accept the...
Yeah, I've changed my business practice to require a deposit now. There's a lot of people that flake on painting that I did for them. It's happened just one too many times. And now that I'm like full-fledged artist going for it, I can't deal with people not trying to pay me a couple, $300-$400, whatever it might be. So down deposits even for the homies.
That hurts.
Got to do it, man.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do.
I mean, how would a musician feel? Like, I want you to do a song or do a recording, and then you never get paid for it, and then you already did it.
Or they want you to, show up at their wedding and do something at their wedding. And you go to play your music and they just pay you in free booze instead.
Yeah.
There's too many people ask for free stuff is the biggest thing, but people that don't pay for what they wanted in the first place, that sucks even worse.
It just seems like a strange concept from the person asking, like, just because it takes a sufficient amount of your time, not to mention the supplies are not cheap. Like, they're not overly expensive, budget breaking, but they're not cheap by any means.
The Mac Miller piece is a 24 by 36 canvas, and it costs $70.
Just for the supplies?
Just the canvas.
Oh, wow.
So then you got to factor in how much paint it takes to cover that, how much time it takes to go into a painting like that, the research involved, and then how do I value my skill as well. I've been doing this for over a decade now. I've refined a skill to get to the point where I can do these things fairly quickly. And then it's like, well, you did it in 4 hours. Shouldn't I just give you like $50? Like, It's like, how about you fuck yourself? Because like there's a lot more that goes into this than just that.
Right.
Sure.
There's a lot of people also that don't understand. Like, I'll say, hey, yeah, I'm working on a painting, you know. I'm like, cool, send me a picture, and I'll send them a picture, and then it'll be like 3 hours later. And like, I want to see where you're at now. Nothing's been done on the canvas. It's been me thinking about like, okay, if I place something here, what is that going to do to the composition? And then there's just a lot of like stuff that's not understood about the whole process there.
You typically, once you start it, you finish it all the way through. Do you ever just pause and come back to it, work on something else in the meantime?
Yeah, kind of like the Wizard of Oz that we talked about a little bit ago. I got a lot of that done, and then I started getting some like requests and stuff, so I put that on hold, which is nice because then you can come back to it with a fresh eye, maybe see things that aren't working that you weren't seeing before. I like to try and have 3 or 4 paintings going at one time because you get burned out on one. You can work on a different one that's fresh. Maybe you could pull something that you were doing that you liked on this side, but you weren't able to like fully implement, but you can on this piece because it's not as far along into the process. That happened a lot with like the Mac Miller piece, like how the hand is transparent. There's been a lot of paintings in the past that I wanted to do stuff like that. But due to the way that I was painting at the time, I was like a little too sloppy or something like that. Because, I mean, that hand, the blue is the background. And if you go in and you mess up, then it's like, what do? You can't just undo it with paint.
You can't control Z. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I got a fair share of jabs at like electronic art. But I would definitely say that it takes a different level of thinking compared to electronic art.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. Once you jump
It's a good tool, though.
You jump in on something, there's no erasing it and going back.
And you can paint over it, but unless like you save that particular color of paint that you used, you're not going to most likely be able to match it.
Well, sure, because I assume most of the time you're mixing different colors to lighten up a blue or add
Right.
different. You're manually mixing these colors and hoping that you have a spare drop somewhere.
And with that piece too, I just threw a bunch of blue and like a teal on it, spray painted it, put acrylic over it, and then sprayed water on it a bunch and just kind of like let it bleed out. And that's where you get like the drips. You can't really recreate that and have it look right. So there's a lot of like, okay, well, once I do that, there's no going back. So I got to make sure that the like 3 steps forward, what would I want to do? And that would be like painting the hand. Like, how am I going to do that? What's going to be in that spot? But luckily, with the process that I was doing there, I didn't have to really worry about it. Love a good dead air.
Well, my mind's just blown. I didn't even realize that. I thought he was wearing a blue glove, but I didn't.
That quarantine time's getting to you, man.
Right.
And now that I'm looking at it and you explaining that, it just kind of was blowing my mind a little bit.
And I put his tattoos in it as well, so you can. And that's something that you have to really look close to.
Yeah, it's pretty subtle.
Yep. I didn't notice the tattoos until just now, too.
There's just a lot of forethought. That rose piece, that was kind of like the final piece for the Vaporwave series.
Yeah, do you want to talk about Vaporwave a little bit? I don't know if we got a chance to.
Well, Vaporwave is just like a retro style, like music, clothing style, and art thing going on right now. Uses a lot of like Windows 90s stuff. I saw it would have been 3 or 4 years ago now, I think. And I just thought it was something kind of neat. It was new. I wanted to kind of be a little bit ahead of the curve on that kind of thing. I was like, well, I could pull stuff from this. I like the retro style. Obviously, there's a lot of retro style stuff coming back right now. And I wanted to be ahead of that kind of thing. So that is what culminated out of the Vaporwave series for me. My Vaporwave series, the U-Haul show titled Vaporwave, was a play on how like hip hop affects consumers. So back in the 90s. Grey Poupon was mentioned. That's where I got the Grey Poupon.
Oh, that Grey Poupon that maybe on that TED Talk. Yeah.
So that's just one of the many examples of it being used in hip hop lyrics. And there's a really good Vox, like, little segment
One
thing
of their
on
little edited videos that they do.
Right.
Yeah.
And they go really in depth to how, like, the more it was mentioned in hip hop, the better their sales and stuff like that. So I thought that was a kind of a cool thing on how, like, people are affected by music. And then I tied in, like, Adderall and the drug epidemic that we're going through into that as well, with, like, Adderall, repeated images of Adderall, stuff like that. And just in general, how people are affected by media for the most part.
Yeah, whether it's consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah, exactly.
They're definitely getting the runaround from the media. Anything else, anybody?
Kev, do you feel like you were able to kind of explain your artwork and where you're headed going forward?
Appreciate the platform. Appreciate you guys getting some of this artwork hung up and stuff. It's cool.
Definitely.
It's really tying the studio together.
Yeah, I'm going to have to come back and do it next time once I'm better. Yeah, hopefully I do something else that blows these ones out of the water.
I don't know, man. We'll see. Do you want to, do you have anything you want to say to your fans in general?
Yeah.
We can probably take this out a little bit and allow you to share it as if it's your own, but anything that you want to speak to them directly, anything you want to say?
Yeah. Get a hold of me. Talk to me. I reply to pretty much everybody that messages me. You can catch me on Instagram at I_make_artwork. So TWERK at the end there. As well as my website, capgallery.com, KAPgallery.com. Check out what I'm doing. Follow the process. I do a lot of, like, behind the scenes, like, this is what I'm doing right now kind of stuff on Instagram. And then my real portfolio is on the website.
Cool, brother. Well, appreciate you coming by. That'll conclude, I guess, the second interview.
The North Platte.
It is the North Platte Kickback podcast.